fucking now. This is my Whitmer here. And he'd look a bit. Get down here now. Get you.
The Wild West. No place for a cobble fighter. When a new wave of muscle arrived, fists immediately took a back seat, as guns, knives, and hefty lumps of bird took centre stage. This was never going to sit well with our protagonist, but he had to survive, and as weapons were the order of the day, our cobble fighter's days began to slip away. One afternoon, around 1987, I popped into a boozer called the White Horse in Leverstock Green with a few of my mates. We were looking for work, hoping they needed some doormen. Anyway, the manager clocked us and informed us that a well-known face on the Manny Clark, who was a good boxer, was running the place. The manager must have called Manny up on the phone, because within a few minutes, this Manny geezer turned up with a few of his hefty-looking pals. He obviously had the hump, thinking that our little firm was trying to muscle in and take over his gaff. He didn't look fucking happy. As luck would have it, Manny and I hit it off immediately and simply saw it as an oversight. And as a result, Manny offered us all work. Manny ended up getting a contract for a nightclub in Buckinghamshire, which was quite a rowdy old place. This club officially shut its doors at 2, but then the revellers were allowed to go upstairs, out of the way, to party for the rest of the evening. There were some right old characters in there, and a load of rival firms from Chesham and Amersham used to frequent the place, and they'd be baying for each other's blood. They hated each other. Now, due to the fact that I lived in the area, Manny asked if I'd go over and work the place. What I'd do was come into the club in small numbers of 3 and 4. Then once inside, they'd gather together as 2 big firms and meet up for an almighty tear-up. There they'd be in standoff, 2 rival gangs opposite each other with menace building. Then with the atmosphere completely moody, they would run at each other. It's like something out of the Wild West. They were a right load of lunatics. On one occasion, Manny ran in and was smashing into them, throwing them at me, as I was rushing them to the top of the stairs for the other doorman to take them from me and eject them onto the pavement. There was 4 of us working that night, and we were knocking them out, throwing them out in droves. Just as the fight started to calm down, I heard the receptionist girl screaming at the bottom of the stairs. It turned out that another doorman, a man called Mad Ginger Callaghan, was throwing them out, and the receptionist was screaming in fright because Ginger was throwing them down the stairs. Even though they were battered and bruised, most of them would just walk off into the sunshine, making their way from the clubs. These kind of fights would occur week in, week out. It was raving fucking lunacy.
I can only do a traveller accent. So you think you're a boxer?
I was working in one place in South London on the doors. This was a proper rough place, where previously we'd thrown 6 geezers out, and they returned to iron us out with baseball bats. This lot instantly set upon me and was smashing lumps out of me. It must have lasted for about half an hour. The bats were actually breaking, and my jaw was broken on both sides. Fortunately, I managed to overpower them and smashed every last one that had the balls to stick around. After that fight, I had to have my whole jaw wired and rebuilt. Not for the last time. It was bad. There was blood spurting out all over the gaff, and I could hardly speak a word for weeks. This was horrible for me, because I don't half like to rabbit.
I wanted the big boy. I wanted him, like, you know what I mean? Because he's a legend. And I said, I'll have him. Like.
Shortly after this little row, my mate gave me some tear gas, and I'm not ashamed to say that after that experience, I carried it with me every day. Because looking back at the situation, if I hadn't had my wits about me, I could have easily died. Better be prepared next time, Gov. After my pal gave me the tear gas, he asked if he should try it out on me. So I was on the toilet in one of our clubs when the door gets kicked off its hinges, and the comes in and sprays me right in the fucking face. This is the first time I've been totally bollocks in my entire life. And he just stood there laughing like some psycho. I learned after this that if I ever got gassed again, I would try not to panic and just breathe slowly, just as my brother Alfie had told me. I also got tear gas straight in the mouth by a bunch of geezers and was just on my way to get a 12-bore shotgun out of my car when the old bill arrived. My plan was just to scare these youngsters. I was going to shoot over the tops of their heads and scare them, but the plod hung around too long and ruined my plan. I had big blisters all over my mouth from the gas, and I was a bit sore too. Then at the end of the night, this big bird came down and tried kissing me on the fucking lips. My mouth was so sore, I nearly had to pick her up and hold her above my head to stop her. In the end, during the mayhem, the soppy girl got a bit of payback when she managed to tear gas herself. Daft cow. Mind you, it's quite funny now looking back on it. I was once gassed by a bunch of geezers over in Brixton, but unbeknown to me, by that point in my life, I'd sort of started to get used to the effects of gas, And even though it nearly fucking blinded me, I kept on fighting. My jaw was broken again, and I ended up in hospital. My jaw was hanging off my face. What happened was this: a big gang of lunatics had kicked off, and they grabbed my pal Ginger and ripped his shirt and chain off. Now, as you'll know by me, no matter what the odds are, I would never leave a pal down on the deck. And with that reason, I rushed over to help him. And that was when it happened. Smash! I took a dig from the side. They'd done me in the jaw, and to add insult to injury, they gassed me. This canister went off like a fire extinguisher, and everyone fucked off out the way of it. Unfortunately, this was the moment when I steamed in and got caught with a cheeky belt to the chops for my trouble. My jaw exploded. It was smashed to pieces in 3 places. Anyway, I put that little experience down to another bad day at the office. So that was extract from the fantastic book, Storming Norman Buckland, the New Governor. And it was written or helped to write by Lee Wortley and Anthony Thomas. Really recommend you purchase this. Got some amazing stories in it. And Freddie Foreman, the legend that is Brown Bread Fred, his forward was, he's the toughest street fighter alive, which I thought was a nice sentiment. So you do tend to see a lot of people saying, oh, he doesn't look that good, etc. For me, the footage that's available of Norman Buckland was when he was older, and he could still have a good row then, and he was fighting in the ring against younger men, etc. But this man, make no mistake, is one of the toughest men ever to have worked the door. A really nice fellow he seems as well. I've not met him. Hopefully I will do in the future. Matt Legg talks very, very highly of him, and a lot of friends of mine say that he's a top guy and was really, really handy and tough back in the day. Matt says that he doesn't know many that could take as much punishment as him. And we've heard the stories there about this jaw being smashed badly. You know, he doesn't back down from anything. He's fought all across the country, some of the toughest places in London as well to work the door, Brixton, etc. Without taking a backward step. So I really found it interesting reading that. Also, Manny Clark, not many people will probably know of unless they're from a certain world, where he ran the security and he knew Lenny McLean well. He sparred with Lenny McLean, well respected and known throughout London and the UK, I guess, in certain circles, and could have a right row as well. Did boxing in the ring, in the unlicensed ring. Both of them used to spar together sometimes as well. Another good friend of Matt Legg's. So he's mentioned quite regularly in this chapter where Norman Buckland's talking about the sort of change on the doors. I think looking back, sort of the 70s, 80s is when the big drug scene came on with the white and everything else coming into play. Obviously all the raves and stuff at the end of the 80s, early 90s, and going in through there's a lot of firearms, a lot of robbings. Things started ratcheting up a level compared to the old style doorman where they were just breaking up fights and whatnot and having it on the cobbles. There's a lot of gang related stuff which started to kick in then, and of course has just moved on from that to get even worse. Whenever there's a product, I mean, the underworld is much like the normal corporate businesses. The violence really happens at high levels only due to money and territory and making sure that you're holding on to what's yours and sometimes taking what isn't yours. And it all revolves around money, as it does in the corporate world where you have corporate takeovers and there's loads of shady stuff goes on. It's similar in the underworld. And these type of characters like Norman Buckland, your Lenny McLeans, right across the country, your Jeff Thompsons, your Andersons from Coventry as well, all those type of hard fighting men, especially through the 80s and 90s. I don't think many of them do the door anymore. You stop seeing them once these tough men who could hold the door on their own, they could take on gangs on their own. You stop seeing that as much when the licensing laws came in, because a lot of these guys would have criminal records for violence or whatever it might be. And when those licensing came in, a lot of them decided to move on. And there's a different type of door person that came in. So I would say Norman is probably one of the, I mean, there'll be more out there, but one of the more better known men from that era who is still actually working security, I believe. I'm not sure of what Norman's age is, but I guess in his 60s. So yeah, he's still apparently working the door, so fair play to him. But I hope you enjoyed that, and until next time, if you can hit the likes if you enjoyed it, hit subscribe if you're not already, and the notifications will let you know when we're next up.